Welcome to another market update. Today is February 24, 2018. Let's start looking at the VIX. As you recall from my last week video, we're noticing these candles kind of showing up, and we're saying that we're going to be cautious, for the coming week because we think that it's going to have a little bit of a pullback. So we from the recent bounce, so we're going to come in and be a little bit cautious and wait for the pullback. And as you can see, that it did the VIX did spike up a little bit, but not as much as I was kind of expecting. And you see that the VIX also came back down as the week progresses. So you can see that the market did pull back a little bit. And if we take a look at the indexes, got a little bit of a pullback, and it's finished the week fairly strong, especially on Friday. So you can see all the indexes have continue to recover from the recent pullback here. So we'll take a look at the ETF and get a little bit better look at the some of the level. Let me switch over to the SPY here, and as you can see on the SPY here, here's the daily chart here. Last week we were talking about this shooting star, and we're basically saying that we're expecting a pullback, and we're looking for a pullback to actually come down to this somewhere around this 268 level before come back up. And as you can see, we did get a little pullback, but not as much as we were expecting, or at least I was expecting. And we got a nice bounce on Friday, especially on Friday. I think there's a lot of short squeeze going on there. So right now we're essentially basically looking for this upper zone here to see would it be able to get up to this 276 before it encounters some sort of resistance or rejection, or is it gonna just come back and pull back to this 268 area and retest this price zone. So let's take a look at the intraday chart here. Let's go back to the 30-minute, because we were looking at the 30-minute chart last week, and we're saying that I was looking at some sort of a inverted head and shoulder pattern. We're saying that if this thing move back down here and it get a nice bounce up, then essentially this would give us the inverted right shoulder to go up and break this neckline, and the major move will essentially be this particular swing. And if we take this up, then it's definitely going to put in a new all-time high. And also I have stated that the market internal, although it's got weakening by the recent pullback, but not to the point that is saying that the market is already top. We are still looking for a new high on some of the market indexes, so we just have to keep an eye out for the new all-time high. And might get a little bit of a pullback before that happened, but again, nobody know what exactly the market gonna do, when and where, or what, but we basically know that the market have been telling us that it has not topped yet. So expect some of the major indexes to hit new high. And you can see the NASDAQ, when we're talking about, we'll take a look at the Q later on, and we can see the NASDAQ is getting close to hitting its its all-time high. So again, we're basically looking at this thing here, and we basically could be looking at a little bit of a flag here, a little bit of a balancing zone, and then we could just project this up. Again, this is pretty much the same swing, same major move that if it were a inverted head and shoulder. But who knows, right? It could come down here and then come back up, so you could still look at that as a inverted head and shoulder. Or if it continue to move up, to get up to here and then come back down and then maybe chop around before, then you could look at this thing as a cup and handle type of deal, and then we will have a revised measure move. Or you could look at this, right? Looking at this right here as a cup and handle as well, if you want to take a look at that. But again, the key thing is this particular swing. Alright, so we're basically just looking for a trigger point for this swing to trace out on the upside. All right, so how it's gonna occur, we don't know, but we're gonna keep an eye on it. We know we're gonna be expecting this swing to play itself out on the upside here eventually. So it's just a matter of how we're gonna trigger it, and we're gonna keep an eye on these level to give us some kind of clue. Okay, and like I said earlier, let's take a look at the Q, and you can see the QQQ, right? The ETF for the NASDAQ 100. Again, we're also saying that we are looking at this, shooting star doji, and we're expecting a pullback, and we're actually expecting a pullback to somewhere around this 160 before it, bounce back up. But you can see that didn't do much of a pullback. Matter of fact, it just did a little bit of a consolidation and then just moved right to this particular zone. It did get rejected and tested at that zone a few times before it actually break through on Friday. And right now, it thinking about coming up and test this price zone here, and if it could break through this price zone, then it could easily be targeting the all-time high and a retest of that. So if we go to the 30-minute chart here, you can see, right? You see, it came up. Right, it came up and got rejected, came up and got rejected, came up and got rejected, and here it's trying to poke his head above it and got rejected, and then finally on Friday it punched through. So right now I want to see, will this thing get up here and chop around and then break, or would it get rejected, come back here, and then it breaks back down and try to retest this area here, this price zone. So again, basically what was looking for some sort of a pullback here to give us the inverted head and shoulder, because we're basically looking for a pullback to come back down to this area and get a major move up here. So similarly to the S&P 500, it doesn't matter how it's going to form. Is it going to be a form a cup of handle, right? Do this with this cup of handle, or you want to look at this as a little bit of a flag, right? And then you project that up. So again, it's the same swing that we're looking for, for this thing to play out. Is this the trigger point? We don't know. So right now we're basically looking for a possibility of this thing maybe come back down, retest, and it go like this. Then could easily maybe this is the trigger point to initiate the extension of this move. Okay. So but if it come back down and do this, then that might not be it, and we just have to wait and see for some other trigger point to tell us it is initiating this particular extension, of this swing move here. Okay, so that's the Q. So now let's go and take a look at the FANG stock and start off with Facebook. Remember, Facebook we're talking about seems to be the weakest of all the FANG stock, and we're talking about this evening star type of candle pattern, and we're looking for a pullback, essentially coming back down to maybe possibly to this 171, 170 area before we see a bounce. And you can see that it did not get down to that level. It just poked through this particular price zone below that 176, and then it pushed through. And you see Friday is kind of broken out, past, poked through this particular price zone here. This move about this 180. Okay, so right now we basically is eyeing this particular level, or would it come back down and retest this 180 and possibly come back down here and try to tag this 176 again. Okay, because there's that trend line here as well that it could come back down and retest the breakout, the recent breakout price zone. So let's go and take a look at the 30-minute, because on the 30-minute you can see that it came up right at this price zone and it chopped around, and still until yesterday, on Friday, it broke through, and right now don't know if it's gonna get above this this low resistance here, this pivot, so and get up to this particular price zone and chop around before it makes its decision to either come back down or make a move toward the recent high. Okay, so right now we're just gonna kind of watch what it's gonna do. Is it gonna pull back here, or is it continue to move up? right? Because right now this is not a good trade location. You can't take a trade in here, right? So if it come down here and it chop around and it come back up, then this might be a good trade location for a long, right? But if it come down and then chop around and then come back down, start coming down, then that might be a good trade location for a short to come down and possibly get into this zone or come and test this trend line. Okay, so that's Facebook, and let's go and take a look at Apple. Apple also have a very strong week again. Remember we were talking about Apple, this doji shooting star. Once again, we're basically looking for a pullback, and I'm saying that I don't expect to get a shadow pullback from Apple, because since Apple is heavily rated on a lot of the indexes, and I expect the SPY, the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ to pull back, and not a shadow pullback, but pull back down to somewhere around here. So that's basically the one was looking for Apple to pull back to near this 165 area. As you can see, it didn't even come close. It didn't even get down to this 170 area. So right now Apple is making a move, so just like Facebook punch through this price zone here. So we're going to see would it be able to get up to this 176 area next week. If it can't get up to that 176, we could see it come back down, and maybe this time we'll pull to this 170 and possibly test for support. And if it failed, then we'll probably see this make an attempt to pull back to test that 165. Okay, so let's go and take a look at the intraday. Right, on the 30-minute chart here, you see that Apple, kind of hovering around this zone here, basically establishing balance before it come up and push through. Right, it's trying to get up here on this this price zone many times, and it failed to get to until the last hour or so on Friday, and it got through there. So now we're going to see would it be able to continue and move to this this price zone, or it will come back down and chop around and give up and start pulling back, and maybe reestablish itself down here at this 170 level before make another attempt to the upside, or come back down and retest this price zone on the downside. Okay, and here we take a look at Amazon. Okay, Amazon is again, we're talking about Amazon, this hangman doji or spinning top, this hangman basically with an inside bar. We're basically looking for a pullback down to maybe somewhere around this near the 1380 area before it come back up. And you can see that it actually came up and put in a new all-time high here. Right, so that's pretty strong here on Amazon. Basically just got a little bit of, no, I wouldn't even call this a pullback. It's basically just a little bounce around and then just move. Right, if we take a look at the 30-minute chart here, you can see that it came up. Right, so it came up, broke through the zone, come back, retest, and push through the zone, chop around. Right, and seller try to push back, and it came back in, and then now it's seems like it's trying to make an effort to break through. So we're going to see, will the seller step in and push us back down and come back and retest this this 1460 area, or is the buyer is going to come in and just push it up to another new all-time high here. Okay, and here we take a look at Netflix. All right, Netflix is also making a big move last week, and also got into a new high. Again, we're basically looking for everybody to pull back, right? To do a little bit, at least, on Netflix, we're basically looking for maybe a little bit of a shadow pullback and then come back up. But as you can see, although it dipped a little bit, but it wasn't really a pullback. And right now, it's basically, testing the all-time high. And we see, depending on how this thing moves, would come back in and pull back to test this area 270, or it's just gonna continue to push up and then come back and maybe test this this break and then forge ahead to a higher high here. So we just have to keep an eye on these price zone and see how the price action is gonna unfold, right? Because if this thing is continue to move up, right, let's say it move up and then it come back down, okay, and came into the zone and then maybe chop around here and then it fell, right, then that could be trouble, right? But if it go up, like this, and let's say come back and test, and then it just go back up again and retake the high, right, then this thing is going higher. Okay, so just keep an eye on those price zone and the price action. That will give us the clue what it's trying to do here. And same thing here with Google. And Google, it just didn't even bother to do much of a pullback, right? We were talking about this, right? This shooting star doji, and you look at this thing here, it just kind of went to this zone here and pulled back, but it never came down to this zone, this lower price zone here, and it just chopped around a little bit and then just surged to the next zone and then came back down and sort of test this area, and then now it's come back and try to test this 1133 again. So if we take a look at the 30-minute chart here, and you can see the price action, right? So it came down, right? Came down, didn't even get into the zone and bounced right off, right? Move to this price zone and then just kind of chop around a little bit and then get up to the next zone. Kind of got rejected a couple times here, right? And then came back down and retest this zone again. And now it's coming back to see could it overtake this zone and move to the next price zone. And if it come up to this price zone, most likely you're going to come in and fill this gap and probably get up to this zone before we see some sort of rejection. So right now, if it come up and come back down, then we could see this. That's one scenario. Okay, the other scenario is go up and do this, right, and then maybe chop around right here and then just move right to. Okay, so that's another scenario. So just keep an eye on these things because the price action will give us this story. And here's that potential, right, inverted head and shoulder pattern. It could be revised to this particular look, but again, essentially is a higher high, higher low, and a breakout on a higher high, right? Okay, so that's it. Hopefully you find this video informative and useful. Please give it a thumbs up by clicking the like and to let me know that you did get something out of it. And if you're not a subscriber of my YouTube channel, just click on the button, the subscribe button on the lower bottom right hand corner, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. And you can also follow me at Twitter. On Twitter, my handle is smtraderCA. Okay, thank you for watching and have a nice weekend.